Hello, everyone. Welcome to this presentation on Jane Addams. Jane Addams is an American philosopher, an activist, and social reformer. She co-founded the Hull House, a settlement house in Chicago. She also won the Nobel Peace Prize for social work and peace activism. She advocated for equality of education for women, minorities, immigrants, and the disabled. So she's done a ton of really great work in philosophy, in education, and in the community. Uh-oh, a thunderstorm. Did you know Jane Addams suffered from a spinal disease which caused her chronic pain, and it limited her ability to partake in physical activities? This disease was a large influence to Addams' sense of empathy and her motivation to care for the poor and vulnerable. The philosophy of overcoming adversity, despite having mental, physical, or socio-economic limits, is a main theme of Jane Addams. Her philosophy is rooted in pragmatism, ethics, and care. She was an advocate of treating students, peers, others with love, with dignity, and respect, despite any diverse set of cultural or biological backgrounds. And you can pause and think about this question. What specific challenges have you had to overcome in your life? And how did you deal with them? How has this impacted the way that you view the world and the way that you treat others? Oh, he's happy now. So historical perspective, the idea of settlement houses, she was a pioneer, Addams was a pioneer in that, which was a community-based social service for education, childcare, and support for immigrants. Community empowerment, sharing ideas, addressing challenges, and having collective action. Immigrant integration. She advocated for respectful integration into society and providing them with language classes. And public health. She also advocated for providing to the different medical needs for immigrants. Addams responded to the challenges of her time: poverty, labor exploitation, and cultural dislocation by developing an approach to education rooted in pragmatism, empowerment, and social justice. So, one of her big ideas is the concept of lateral progress. Contrary to vertical progress, which is more about the individual, lateral progress involves advancing everyone together. So collectively, the emphasis is on community achievement by shared effort and mutual support. Can you think of some examples of lateral progress in modern society? Maybe a sports team, group projects, or doing volunteer work. The foundations of Addams' philosophy. She was heavily influenced by pragmatism, particularly John Dewey. She put an emphasis on experience, social reform, democracy, and community. She rejected abstract theorizing in favor of practical problem solving. How do you think pragmatism shaped Addams' approach to social issues? So, Addams and Ellen Gates started the Hull House in 1889. It offered learning and support programs for working class families. The two used the house to learn from experiences, try out, and develop their social reform ideas. Addams viewed society or democracy as a social ethic, not just a political system. She advocated for participatory democracy and civic engagement. She believed in the importance of having diverse perspectives in decision making. How does Addams' view of democracy differ from traditional definitions? Addams' approach to social problems. So she emphasized understanding the root. What is the root cause? What is the root of the problem? And she often emphasized that the system itself is the problem, and not putting the blame on the child, especially, but also not really on the individual as well, and individual charity. And she also believed in bringing people together and activism and having collective action in democracy. Feminism and women's rights. Addams was a key figure in the women's suffrage movement. She advocated for women's participation in public life and politics. She linked women's rights to broader social reform efforts. Pacifism and international relations. So she also vouched for peace. Of course, she won the Nobel Peace Prize. And in international cooperation, she opposed World War I and worked to end child labor. She co-founded the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. How did Addams' pacifism align with or challenge her pragmatic philosophy? Some critiques of her Addams' philosophy. Some viewed her work as too idealistic because she also emphasized on personal growth and ethical behavior. She was criticized for potential middle upper class biases, such as hygiene, parenting, housekeeping. Debates of settlements on addressing systemic issues. So does it create more of a divide, having a we know how to take care of you, or you need to learn from the experts? So almost calling yourself an expert. Those are some of the different critiques about Addams' philosophy. Her legacy: she was a pioneer of social work. She influenced the development of sociology and urban studies. There's still relevance today in the discussion of social justice and community organizing. How do you see Addams' ideas reflected in contemporary social movements today? So applying her philosophy. So maybe consider some of the social issues today through this lens. Immigration, asylum seeking, Israel-Palestine conflict, and Russia and Ukraine. How do you think Jane would look at some of these issues? And how can the community address these issues? What is the proper balance between revolution and systemic change? How can we apply Addams' ideas into the community? So here's a case study quickly. In Chapter 7 of 20 Years at Hull House, there's an example of a woman who lost her job at the factory after taking part in a labor protest. The Hull House was able to provide her with basic needs like food to support her during this time. So here's exactly how the Hull House responded. They provided her with temporary housing and meals. They connected her to legal aid and labor organizers. They offered classes and job training while she looked for new work, and they helped her tell her story in public discussions on workers' rights. Here's some of Addams' key writings and works. Have you read any of these? You can pause to look at them. And what insights did you gain? So personal research. Just some of my own personal research. Democracy and Social Ethics, which is by Addams, 1902, which is between the balance of fighting for what is right for everyone and acting in a way which is beneficial to everyone. Learning from experience, moral and ethical behavior by being active and involved. Newer Ideals of Peace, Addams, 1907. I really enjoyed this. It talked about education as a tool for building peace and responsibility, participation and equality. And then finally, 20 Years at Hull House. This talks about Jane's experiences in community work in Chicago, in community work, in poverty, and in social integration. And here are my resources. Thank you.